All right, hello everyone, and welcome to C.HR with Ariaunstewart. Today we have Curtis Lewis here with us, who's going to be talking to us about an event that he has coming up. So if you want to just introduce yourself to the people, let them know about the event.
Yeah, I'm Curtis Lewis from Springfield, Massachusetts, and I have an event called Buddies Kids Virtual College Fair, which will be happening July 17, 2021.
Yeah, and then what is the event about? Because Buddy's Kids is a virtual college tour, right?
Yep.
So we're going to have colleges.
No, College Fair.
College fair.
Yeah.
I keep calling it a tour. I'm like, no, you're not actually seeing anything. But you're going to be able to talk to the admissions counselors from a bunch of different universities. So right now, can you name off the colleges that are going to be in attendance?
So we have Jackson State University, Grambling State University, Stillman College, Boricua College, Norfolk State University, and we have Virginia Union.
Awesome. So if you are working with a student, like whether you're a teacher, guidance counselor, you have kids of your own, siblings, and you know right now is a really hard time because of COVID. We can't go to as many college tours and meet people in person as we would like, so this is an opportunity for them to get connected. Yeah. And then the other element to this event, it's not just about the admission side, but we're also going to be helping students with like the details that go along with it, like the financial aid. You're going to have the Army represented, right?
Yeah,
somebody,
military recruitment. We'll have somebody speaking for the sports recruitment as well. We'll also have some online games and some prizes to give out as well. It should be very fun. I encourage all kids to come check this out. What we're trying to do is make sure that we give everybody the equal exposure.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. Because I feel like even on a regular day, sometimes, you know, kids from different areas are already not as exposed as kids who have maybe more support, resources. Anyway, and then you have COVID on top of it, which makes it even harder.
Yeah. That's part of it.
Yeah.
But the other part of it is, you know, most of the college that's on here are HBCUs.
Yes.
And so when we're talking about HBCUs and stuff like that, people say you're supposed to do the college fairs or whatever. It's supposed to be done in April and October.
Yep.
But by the time the kids gets there, they're already going to choose those other colleges. So what we want to do is just make sure that we give them the exposure about the HBCUs. And the other thing, we're starting early. So from 9th grade all the way up to 12th grade can, be a part of this. And so that way, when it's time for them to get ready to choose a college, they already can say, okay, I know about this school, I know about that school, and now the playing field becomes even. And so we just want the playing field to be even across the board. Because if they both come out at the same time, it makes it very difficult for kids to choose HBCUs when they don't know too much about them.
Exactly, because those are not the schools that they usually talk about with your guidance counselors and stuff like that. Yeah, no. You got to seek it out. And I feel like if you don't have like a parent who went to one or like someone, you know what I mean? Like you just don't even have the conversation. But on top of that, can you tell us a little bit like just about yourself and why you started working on the Buddies Kids organization?
There's, a couple elements that I can really talk about, but my thing was I was in the military. I was in the U.S. Navy, and I was stationed out in Norfolk, Virginia. And when I was out there, I noticed that the kids that were my age, but they were in college, all the opportunities that they were able to receive during career fair and how the culture of black culture was just so dominant from steps, they just was all into it. And so when I came back home, I observed, I looked, and I didn't see the same thing. So now is 2001, no, actually 2002, I have a son. So I'm not thinking about the HBCU, I'm just thinking about basketball and stuff like that. And so as he goes, through the school system and everything, all A student, very good in ball and everything else. And I realized I waited too late. I took him his junior year to his senior year to go check into like one of the college expo that they have out in New York, which was beautiful, and a lot of people were there. But his mind was already made up by then, and so I wanted to make sure that I give kids more of an opportunity to see what's going on. So now when he comes back from college, this is his first year, he is always talking about it's different at the school he at, which is Rensselaer Poly Institute. And he said it's different. And I know for a fact that if he went to a HBCU, that it would be probably a little bit more enjoyment out of it. Will he have the same difficulties? Probably so. But, it's different when you're around people that look like you.
And it's a nice experience to be able to have before you have to get into the world, and like you can have like this environment to learn amongst your peers. Yeah. And like you said, people who look like you and grow with you, and then you can I feel like even connecting, like if you have a kid or a student who wants to be like an entrepreneur, like making those connections there, and building a team of people who look like you versus having to go into the world and figure out like just who has the same mindset, because it's like hard to make that connection sometimes. And then your son, what does he study again?
He's studying mechanical engineering.
Yeah. And I feel like, you can get into also like the programs that support even like, there's people who support like minority contractors, conversations and stuff like that, and you can learn more about that in those settings. So I'm excited for the event. I feel like we're going to have a great turnout. And I will definitely put the link in the website and the video and all that for people to sign on.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be different. For all that do know me and that graduated with me, I'm still out here I'm still out here daring to be different, and so I kind of like carry that on my sleeve, so.
So you feel like that's what drove you to do this, is like really just having your son going through that experience, because you're also a basketball coach, right?
Yeah.
So you want to tell us a little bit about that and like the basketball side of all of this?
Well, for the basketball portion of it, what I know in this area here, not too many kids are being selected in this area, and so.
The home of basketball.
Yeah, the home of basketball. That's crazy, right? We should have all the top.
It should
ball
start
players.
here,
right?
Yeah.
But we have some good ball players here in Springfield, Massachusetts, and also in Connecticut. And I was able to coach and go across the the states and stuff like that as a AAU coach. Shouts out to my man. Corey Gould from CT Express, for offering me that experience to be able to coach those kids. And what I noticed is that those kids were no different from our kids, and we were able to compete.
Right.
It's just that they had more of an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so my job is to kind of like show the world that we got talent up in this area as well. And so I created this thing called the Buddy Kids Basketball Individual Showcase. So college coaches would be able to see, they would get a coach's packet, and they would be able to see these top players within the areas of Connecticut and Massachusetts go out there to be, evaluate them. We're going to probably be streaming live, and some of them will be in the building. So we'll have Division I, Division II, and Division III. And so that way these kids here can be able to get the opportunities instead of being overlooked.
Exactly.
I went to, I'm not going to name their names.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Like that, but I went to like a few of these like camps or exposure camps, and they were good. But what I noticed is that before the child or the kid goes to that camp, it's already pre-selected ahead of time. And so, to me, how can a kid get on the radar if you already are looking at a certain individual kid?
What makes them pre-selected? Like, what's that?
I have no idea.
You think it's like a who you know type of thing?
Pretty much.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of politics in it, and so they're supposed to be grassroots.
Yeah.
And so to me, it doesn't seem like it's grassroots. So I have to figure out how to change. So my job is to apply pressure and come out different. And so by having this individual basketball showcase, it's showing that we do have the talent, and it's showing that there is no political strings across or whatever here, and that you can actually evaluate the top kids within this area
based on their actual talent and their performance,
right,
versus somebody's like parent is like, hey,
right. Well, it's,
am I getting here?
Yeah, but sometimes they get like Jeffrey. They throw Jeffrey inside the package with Dante, and Dante is nice. Jeffrey's not nice, but we got a kid who's better than Jeffrey. But they're leaving Junebug out. So my whole thing is that, okay, we're gonna eliminate all of that. If you can play, you're gonna get your shine. If you can't play, you won't get your shine.
Right.
And so, I'm just about an even playing field, treating everybody equal, and giving them the opportunities that they need to get. And I'm very passionate about when it comes to this basketball stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's and I can understand, like, sports is already competitive.
Yeah.
And then you have sport, like, parents are, like, a whole different, like, everybody wants their kid to make it, So
right.
It's like...
But the thing is like, all right, so when you talk about that avenue of it, you got parents that can afford to do things.
Right.
And then you got parents that can't afford to do things.
Right.
And so those kids who have a good talent but their parents can't afford to do things, they're not able to even get the exposure because they don't even have enough money to even go to the showcase,
elite camps
and stuff like that,
and the showcases.
And so that's how
the
Jeffrey kid gets an advantage because his mother and his father has the money to dish out, and they can look at that kid. Not saying that kid is bad, but this kid is being left out, and so they tend to get discouraged and think that they can't play to
the level that they're supposed to be playing at to get recognized.
Exactly. And so my whole thing is that, I'm trying to, cut the tape, if and do it the right way and how it's supposed to be done. So
what do you think, since you are a coach yourself, like just sports in general, what do you think sports brings to a growing adult? Like, what element do you feel like that helps students with that they can take into adulthood?
All right, so I can't really speak on all the sports.
Yeah.
But I can speak on basketball, right? So when we talk about basketball, right, they always say it's a business, right?
They say basketball is a business?
Yeah, because everybody's trying to make money and all this.
Oh,
other stuff
yeah.
So, but when you talk about the game, so the game is how I kind of like put life to it, right? And so what you have is you have the coach, and then you have a point guard, and then you have the players, right? And so in order for the project to go, right, somebody's got to be the project supervisor.
Yep.
It's most likely it's the coach.
Yeah, just like an organization.
Yeah. But the reflection of the project supervisor is the project manager. Now,
so who's the supervisor in the team?
Well, no, it would be the project manager, I believe. He's the one that's out there on the field itself or out there on the court.
Okay.
And the project supervisor who gives the instruction to the manager is the coach. And so the person that
Okay.
the person who's the point guard is actually the reflection of the project manager. And so his job is to be able to get whatever the play is or whatever the defense is to make sure that all of the guys that's on that team is doing exactly what the coach is asking him to do, or the project supervisor is asking them to do.
Got you.
So if it's to build a building,
yep,
and
the architecture side,
right,
yep.
then you it would be no different. Say, okay, we're going to play this type of defense, because this is the defense that we're going to do to be able to stop this team from coming through. Right. And so if it's to figure out how to run the pipes or whatever, and we're going to run it this way. So your options, you're running like a motion or a which is it's a specific play in order for you to score, to make sure that you can.
There's a formula to it.
Exactly.
There's like you work it out when you're having your conversation before the game. Mm-hmm. You're getting everybody prepared. Everybody gets their tasks.
Right.
And now you need to be able to bring it together. And you also have that practice side where it's like, okay, we're gonna run these drills over and over to really sharpen your skills.
Which is the blueprint.
And I feel like that. Goes directly into life. I feel like being able to be patient, because like one kid might be fantastic, another kid slacking, but you need that other player to be good for you in order for your whole team to work together. So it teaches you patience, and strategy, and also just I feel like endurance, and just like because you could run the play perfectly and somebody else could have been more prepared on the other team.
Right.
And you need to be able to take that and reassess, go back, do your huddle real quick, and then be able to go back out there and be better and keep your mentality up.
Right. So everybody has a role on the floor.
Yes.
And, when you're, I'm trying to just go with the building part of it.
Yeah.
And so when you do something like, run a line or something like that, or electric, they got codes for it. And so the referee will come in there and say, oh, that's a foul. Oh, you can't do that. So everything has a place of life in it.
You get used to red tape.
Yeah.
Because somebody's always trying to stop you from what you like. I'm just trying to get this done. They're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That wasn't how it was supposed to be done.
And so, that's just one part of it. The other part of it, what I told my son was, this is his first year at college. And usually a game has 4 quarters. Yeah. And so in college, you have 4 years. So I said, right now, you're dealing with your first quarter. So it might be a struggle. Just continue to play the game. You win at the end of the 4th quarter.
Exactly. Does that help him?
I don't know yet. We're still in the first quarter.
But he's gonna come back to you years later, like, how you always put it in like perspective for me. That's what kept me going.
Well, I mean, he's very smart kid. Yeah. He's getting there. Yeah. It's a little different because he's away from home and stuff like that. But basketball, it's not life, but it has a lot to do with life.
And I think a lot of sports are like that. And that's why I wanted to touch on that, because like if you have a student that's, say, not even in high school yet, or you have a young kid, it's just really important. I think it's fundamental that a kid plays sports in high school. Yeah. I feel like, and you might have a kid that's more artistic, but either way, you want to have them have some type of outlet for their energy. Because you sit in school for, 6 hours,
well,
getting just knowledge.
Well, I agree, but, there's, for basketball, right? Is a huge element. So let's just say the kid doesn't play the sport. There's a person that has to keep the scoreboard. There's a person who's the manager. The ball boy, what you would call it. Everybody has a position to make sure that the atmosphere is set and we can go successfully, whether it be a win or a loss. So everybody has a part to play when it comes to certain sports and stuff like that. Whether it be the referee, the person, the coach, the player, the person that's keeping the scores or the record keeping.
Yeah.
So all of it has
that.
have its place, and then you're dealing with different type of pressure and stuff like that as well. So.
And from an HR perspective, since this is C.HR, when you go into job interviews, if you are new, like you're coming out of college, they will ask you, a lot of people will ask you if you played a sport. A lot of people will ask you if you were a coach. They will see that as absolutely leadership experience.
Yeah.
So if you weren't that kid who was able to like work through high school and college and get like assistant manager, supervisor type of role on your resume, but you were able to actively be on a team and be a coach on a team, or even just play a big part in your team, like you can spin. I don't want to say spin that because it sounds kind of bad, like it's not authentic, but like you can make it come across like you have leadership experience, like being able to lead a team of people to do a physical sport, I think is harder than trying to sometimes work with people in like an office setting, depending on what it is.
But it's still the same.
Yeah.
You cannot get away. You can't get away with it because you're not necessarily gonna get along with everybody that's on your team.
But you need to, but the thing about it too is that if you're a good, if you're like a leader on your team in high school or college, and you're good at it, you're gonna realize that different things move different people. Yeah, some people want to be cheered on. Some people want to be like, you did a good. You know what I mean? Like that's everybody.
What will motivate them.
Yeah, and like you start to learn that about people, and then to be a really good manager, when you're able to do that with your employees and figure out what actually drives them to be successful, because not everybody in corporate or in any job is always driven by money. And even if they are driven by money, it doesn't mean that you have it at your discretion to give everybody a raise just because you want them to work harder. You need to really understand people and how to motivate them through a bunch of different ways.
You're an excellent point guard or coach.
Right.
It all depends on what you want to play.
Exactly.
But I mean, there's so many avenues what sport does for a kid. I think it's very important. And going forward, it's a team. And, we talk about it all the time, that, you only can go as far as your team go. You can get so far, but if your team comes together, then you will see, you get that trophy, or you'll see the smiles on the parents' faces, or the school's face. And, as a team, this is what you all strive to get. And so, maybe your team is to get like a high investor. You get that $2 million investor or whatever, but you guys can't.
That is definitely a team effort too in business. If you're starting your own business and you're trying to find that venture capital to get started, like it's hard to do any of those things by yourself. And I feel like even people out here who get to these roles of like, CFO, CEO, like nobody gets there alone. Yeah. Like you had some type of mentor, you had a boss at some point that helped get you to where you are. So, you can get that in sports as well. So I think we talked about a lot, and hopefully if your kid doesn't already play sports or you don't play sports, hopefully we motivated you to get involved, because I think it's super important, and it's good to stay healthy and active, especially with COVID going on. A lot of kids didn't because they took down all the basketball hoops. They're putting them back up now, right?
May 17th is when they post.
Yeah.
From what I heard, that they'll start the process of putting it up.
And I mean, a lot of parents were talking about that too. Like, just because of the pandemic doesn't mean that every single kid was in the house 24/7. But then when they were out of the house and they couldn't play sports, it was like, what were they supposed to be doing?
Yeah, I tell you I know we kind of like wrapping up. One thing what we end up doing.
Yeah.
We coached this year, and what I ended up doing was taking the kids to the court, even though that there was no hoop there at all.
Yeah.
And actually, train the kids and work on their fundamentals, because at least they would know how to play the game.
Exactly.
Instead of getting distracted by putting the ball in the hoop. Yeah, we all want to put the ball in the hoop, but you also want to be able to teach them how to play the game when it comes to when you're getting ready.
Yeah, you got to run the drills. Know what does the point guard do? Yeah. So it's
And that was awesome. A way for us to beat COVID for a little bit and get together.
And get outside and be active. That's awesome. Yeah. So thank you guys all so much for listening. This has been C.HR with Ariaunstewart and Curtis Lewis. Thank you so much for being on the show. I want to give a shout out to the Association of Black Business and Professionals for sponsoring the show. It is an organization where we can come together and network and share resources. If you work for a company, you work at a nonprofit, you own a nonprofit, or you are an entrepreneur, there's something there for you. Thank you for listening.